today we're unpacking Mercy, not just as a thriller, but as a psychological case study for the way people cope, break, and rebuild in our modern world. Forget jump scares and plot twists for a moment. Mercy is really a story about pressure, emotional, social, and moral. The characters give us a surprisingly sharp mirror for the stresses we live with today. One of the smartest choices the film makes is grounding its tension in something familiar, the sense that everyone carries more than they admit. In a world where people curate their lives online, swallow frustrations at work, and perform stability even when they're barely hanging on, Mercy shows characters who are doing exactly that. Only in their case, their emotional cracks eventually widen into something dangerous. The film exaggerates the stakes, sure, but emotionally, it's rooted in the same pressures many people feel every day. The protagonist's psychology. The main character is written as someone who clings to control as a defense. Early on, you can sense they've built their personality like a shield. Orderly routines, careful emotional neutrality, a tendency to rationalize instead of feel. This is a classic modern coping mechanism. While life becomes unpredictable, people build systems around themselves just to feel steady. But here's the twist. The film slowly removes those systems. As the story pushes them into morally ambiguous situation, you see the psychological collapse. What's fascinating is how Mercy avoids melodrama. Instead, it shows subtle things, changes in speech rhythm, decision paralysis, that moment where the character starts reacting instead of choosing. These are signs of someone whose inner narrative no longer matches reality. A common experience in burnout, trauma responses, or long-term anxiety. The antagonist isn't just a villain. They represent something more cultural. The fear of being exposed as weak, as wrong, as flawed, all things social media trains people to hide. They weaponize unpredictability and emotional pressure, pushing others to reveal parts of themselves they usually keep under lock and key. In that sense, they function almost like a force of psychological entropy. Every encounter with them strips away a layer of performance and pushes the protagonist towards something more primal. This is one of the most interesting themes in Mercy, the idea that modern personas are fragile, and when pushed, people revert to older, less polished versions of themselves. Relationships as pressure cookers. One of the strongest aspects of this film is the way relationships are portrayed. Conversations aren't just exchanges, they are emotional battlegrounds where people try and fail and to maintain the facade they've built. The film highlights dynamics like deflection as emotional armor, guilt as silent motivator, loyalty strained by internal turmoils, mistrust growing from unspoken fears. Each relationship reflects a different psychological tension common today. The need to be dependable, the fear of disappointing others, the pressure to keep secrets, the instinct to hide pain. By the time these characters collide in the final act, you feel the weight of every suppressed emotion. The explosion isn't just physical, it's psychological. What Mercy means in modern life. The film's title is intentional. In a world that pushes efficiency, productivity, and emotional composure, Mercy is an act of rebellion. The characters are trapped not only by circumstance, but by the expectations they've internalized. The movie asks, who do you want to become when pressure to appear fine becomes too heavy? And who deserves grace in a world that rewards perfection and punishes vulnerability? By the end, you're left thinking less about the plot and more about the people, how their unraveling reflects the emotional strain so many carry quietly. That's what makes Mercy resonate. Beneath the thriller surface, it's a portrait of psychological survival in modern life. If you enjoy films that work both as suspense and as introspection, Mercy is absolutely worth your time. It reminds us that the hardest battles aren't always the loudest. They're the ones happening inside.